Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Jati Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Jati Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Jati Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha To that Devi who abides in all beings as the genus, the genetic information, the original cause of everything. Good evening and welcome to the fifth night with the Devi in the reading of Devi Mahatmya. We are now in the thick of things. The battle is picking up its intensity, and tonight we'll see that both sides will change gears, change strategies, and get into a really massive bloodshed, literally. But before that, I wish to share something that the Devi wanted to talk about. A message that she wished to be conveyed before we started tonight. She asks us to guard against perfection. Perfection, or the need for it, arises from a sense of dissatisfaction. And what does dissatisfaction arise from? It arises from non-acceptance. Non-acceptance of things as they are and wanting them to be another way, our way. She wants us to see how a completely ego-based situation this is it that we often find ourselves in. Because in our desire for perfection, we are actually rejecting her. We are in a state of non-acceptance of her. Whether it is a non-acceptance of things outside us, in the things, people, situations, events that we see and are involved in, or the non-acceptance of things within us. Our emotions, our thoughts, our physical features, the way we behave, the way we live our life. We are quite hard. We have become quite hard on ourselves as a people. And the Devi reminds us to be gentler with ourselves, to be more accepting, the way she accepts everything, all parts of us. So when she, who can see everything, even those parts of us that we cannot see, and yet accepts us just the way we are, then why are we being so foolhardy and not accepting ourselves the way we are? And that is why we go from one extreme to another, like we talked about Chanda and Munda yesterday. Two extremes which are inseparable. Because when one end of the continuum doesn't go the way we expect it to, or doesn't look the way we want it to, we switch, we reject it completely and move in the opposite direction. That is the solution that the mind comes up with. It thinks that by turning our back onto that which we do not accept will solve the problem. But how can it when the problem is actually within us? The problem of non acceptance. And with that demon of non acceptance sitting within us, nothing outside will ever satisfy us. It is just not possible. So we must guard against perfectionism. Acceptance is the golden key. In today's chapter, we shall understand the significance of Mahasaraswati's 8 arms. We will watch as the mother will take on 8 different forms to kill 8 different demons. She will continue to slay the various tendencies and vrittis, whirlpools, that our mind tends to get caught in. Remember, Sattva is the realm of thoughts. So all the demons that we are watching being slain are related to our thoughts. And so many metaphors, right? But did we realize that the battlefield where all these battles take place is actually the field of our conscious awareness? The battlefield is actually our own field of consciousness, within which each soul is aspiring for real freedom, the freedom from its asuric frequencies. So before we begin tonight's story, it is just one chapter. Let's take out a few minutes to center ourselves and align with Mahasaraswati so that we can receive the divine illumination that she wishes to bestow on us. I request you to gently close your eyes and start taking a few deep breaths, relaxing your mind and body through the tool of your breath, that constant companion, always ready to help you get into a more relaxed state. If you feel any kind of tension or built up energy anywhere in your body, you can quickly escalate its exit by taking in the breath from your nose and exhaling forcefully through the mouth, like this. Do not hold back anything. Do not try to hold it in. Let the breath pick it up from within you and throw it out. Release it. It was not doing you any good inside anyway. As your breath relaxes into its natural rhythm, now gently bring your attention in the space between your eyebrows. This is the seat of Mahasaraswati. And we start by chanting her mantra 3 times. You can do it verbally or silently within yourself. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. Continue to chant the mantra, keeping your focus gently centered in between your eyebrows. Let the mantra flow through you like your breath, effortlessly, without any control. Continue to chant the mantra until you feel satisfied. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. Om Aim Mahasaraswatiye Namaha. And when you begin you end your chanting, lovingly request Mahasaraswati to illumine your mind with higher understanding. Lovingly request her to shine her light bright in your Rudra Granthi so that you may see what she wishes you to see tonight. Getting back to the story, things are escalating now. With Dhumralochana and then Chanda and Munda annihilated, Shumbha is now not holding back. While on the other side we have Chandika slash Ambika in her Devi form, her lion Somanandi, and Kali. Let us see what happens next. Sage Medhas continues. After the Daitya, Chanda was slain, and Munda was laid low, and many of the battalions were destroyed. The lord of the Asuras, powerful Shumbha, with mind overcome by excessive anger, commanded then the mobilization of all the Daitya hosts or the Daitya generals. Now let the 86 Asuras arise with all their forces, and the 84 Kambus, surrounded by their own forces, go out. Let the 50 Asura families of Koti Viryas and the 100 families of Dhomras go forth at my command. Let the Asuras Kalakas, Doradas, the Mauryas, and the Kalakeyas hasten at my command and march forth ready for battle. After issuing these orders, Shumbha, the lord of the Asuras and a ferocious ruler, went forth, attended by many thousands of big forces. Seeing that most terrible army coming, Chandika filled into the space between earth and sky with the twang of her bowstring. Thereon her lion made an exceedingly loud roar, and Ambika magnified those roars with the clanging of the bell. While Kali, the remover of darkness, expanding her mouth wide and filling the quarters with the sound "hum" and terrific roars, the sound of which were greater than all the other sounds put together. On hearing those roars and sounds, the enraged Asura battalions surrounded the lion, the Devi Chandika, and Kali from all four sides. At this moment, in order to annihilate the enemies of the Devas and for the well being of the Devas, there issued forth, endowed with exceeding vigor and strength, Shaktis from the bodies of Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Indra, and other Devas in the form of those Devas going to Chandika. Whatever was the form of each of these Devas and the gods, whatever his ornaments and his vehicle, in that exact very form his Shakti advanced to fight with the Asuras. First came, in a heavenly chariot drawn by swans, Brahma's Shakti carrying a rosary and Kamandulu. She is called Brahmani, the energy of creative capacity. Maheshwari arrived, seated on the bull of discipline, holding the trident of unity, wearing snake bracelets of great energy, and adorned with the crescent of the moon. Kaumari, in the form of Guha or Kartikeya, holding a spear in her hand and riding on a fine peacock, advanced to attack the Asuras. Likewise, the Shakti of Vishnu came, seated upon Garuda, holding conch, club, bow in hand. The Shakti of Hari, who assumed the incomparable form of a boar, she also advanced there in a boar-like form. And Narsimhi arrived there, assuming a body like that of Narsimha, bringing down the constellations by the toss of her mane. Likewise, the thousand-eyed Indri or Indriya, holding a thunderbolt in hand and riding on the lord of elephants, arrived just like Indra. So tonight we see the introduction of 8 demons in the battlefield, and matching those 8 demons, the unexpected arrival of 8 forms of Shakti corresponding to Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and Indra. These 8 Shaktis are known as Matrikas or mothers, and they represent various forms of the mother herself. When you look at their names, which are Brahmani, Maheshwari, Kaumari, Vaishnavi, Varahi, Narsimhi, Indri, you realize that their names are linked to the male um, gods and devas. But these names, when you actually translate them technically according to rules of Sanskrit, the names do not are not derivatives of the names of the male gods, but the names actually mean that belonging to or proceeding from. The reason behind choosing such names for these Shaktis may be to sort of break away from the earlier mythological concept of the goddess as a consort, as the wife, let's say, in order to express this idea in Devi Mahatmya of the goddess as power. For example, let's take Indri here. In the Rig Veda and throughout the epic period, Indra's consort is always known as Indrani. But the name Indri here is first found only in Devi Mahatmyam, and it is a way, an attempt to refashion her identity as independent from her previous role of being a divine spouse. Now, each of these 8 matrikas are actually the way we saw the Devi Mahalakshmi when she came forth. She was actually put together by her own Shakti, by her own energies residing within those various gods and devas. It was actually her only which was residing in them, coming out from them and reuniting as Mahalakshmi. And same is the case here. So let us look at these 8 matrikas before we move forward a little, and the 8 demons as well. Let us go back to the 8 demons that Shumba commanded to step into the battlefield. We have Uddhayudha, which means someone with upraised weapons. We have Kambu, which means thief or plunderer. Then we have Koti Virya, which means somebody having immense energy or somebody who is very, very brave. Then we have Dhaumra, which, like we understand from Dhumralochana, is somebody who is smoky in their demeanor. Then we have Kalaka, which means the impure ones, somebody who is black or dark. Then we have Dor Hrida, somebody who has an impure heart. Then we have Maurya, which means foolish or stupid. And we have Kalakeya, somebody who is born of impurity. And while these are the literal meanings, over time, various sages and rishis have tried to decode the meaning of these demon names. And we have two sets of meanings for them. So let's look at the first one. Uddayuda represents hatred. Kambu represents shame. Koti Virya represents fear. Dhomra represents doubt. How doubt clouds our vision. Kalaka represents reproach or the need to criticize or condemn something. Then Dor Hirda represents caste. Maurya represents modesty. And Kalakeya represents greed or your lineage. And in another set of interpretations, we have Uddayudha as kama or desire or lust, but not the physical kind of lust. It's a subtler form of desire, right? Because this is sattva guna, this is the realm of thoughts. Then we have Kambu as krodh or anger. And of course, because Kambu is the thief, right? And anger is the thief of our peace. Koti Virya represents lobha, which means greed. Dhomra represents moha. Moha represents like an attachment and almost like an intoxication because of the attachment and even addictions. Then we have Kalaka, who represents mud, which is basically the sense of I, pride, arrogance. Then we have Dor Hirda, which represents Matsarya, which means envy or jealousy. And we have Maurya, who represents Pashunya. Pashunya might be a new word for some of us. Pashunya refers to gossip. And we have Kalakeya, who represents, surprise, surprise, Kalakeya represents Punya or the attachment to Punya. So now we understand the 8 demons as Kama, that is desire, Krodh, that is anger, Lobh, that is greed, Moha, that is attachment, Mad, that is pride, Matsarya, that is envy, Pashunya, that is gossip, and Kalakeya, that is Punya. And if you look at it, like some of the, these interpretations are quite obvious. Like if you look at Maurya, it means, one of the meanings is modesty, right? So modesty means avoiding bringing attention to yourself. So now if you are, your mind is trying to avoid bringing attention to yourself, then what is it that is going to do? And it is going to give that attention to others. And what form does that take? Gossip. Or if we take Kalaka, who means reproach. Reproach means the tendency or the act of criticizing someone, finding faults with someone. Of course, that's a way of enforcing our own pride, because by putting down someone else, we feel that our own pride gets a boost. We become higher than them because we are criticizing them. So now that we have been introduced to the 8 demons, now let us get introduced to the 8 matrikas who are going to fight these demons in the battlefield. And don't worry at this point about trying to memorize all this. Eventually, I will share all this information. At this point, simply absorb and don't try to retain anything. Don't try to sort of remember information. So we first have Brahmani. And each of these matrikas, when they arrive on the battlefield, they're holding certain tools or weapons. And all of these 8 weapons that they bring actually correspond to the 8 weapons that Mahasaraswati holds in her hand in the image that we have seen earlier of her. So Brahmani comes in holding a bell, and Brahmani helps us fight the first demon, Kam, desire. Then we have Maheshwari coming in holding a trident, and she helps us fight Krodh, or in its less intense forms, frustration, or the more unconscious forms like the tendency for violence or that urge to destroy things. Then we have Komari, who helps us fight Lobha, the need for more and more. And Komari actually means a young girl, right? And it's typically a sign of immaturity to actually want more and more things and not to be satisfied. And immaturity is, related to young age. So Komari fights Lobha. Then we have Vaishnavi, who helps us fight Moha, or attachment, or the intoxication of being attached to things, the addiction. And hence Vaishnavi can be a particularly powerful form of Shakti in order to fight or transcend the ill effects of Rahu. Then we have Varahi, who helps us fight Mad, or arrogance, or the pride that arises from identification with this self, this image of ourself that we have, that is pride. Then we have Narasimhi, who is helping us fight not a particular demon actually, and Narasimhi is actually a very, very powerful and fierce form of the goddess. In fact, they say that Narasimhi arose from the heart of Ma Durga, right? So, but she's not really attached to any particular demon. We have one more Matrika coming up who has not yet arrived in the story, and she will be the one handling one of the demons. And finally, we have Indri, who helps us fight Matsarya, or jealousy, the root of which is actually the tendency to compare. And each of these matrikas, the text describes how they surrounded the Devi and the lion from all sides. So basically, these matrikas surrounded her from all 8 sides, and they are actually also assigned these 8 directions. Like Brahmani rules the east direction, Maheshwari rules the north direction, and so on. We can always share this list later on. And not just that, but when we look at these 8 matrikas and compare it with the lunar cycle, we understood how the Devi first appeared, on the Dvitiya Tithi, the second lunar day, right? So here, these matrikas also correspond to each of the lunar days, with Brahmani corresponding to the first lunar day, Maheshwari to the second lunar day, Kaumari to the third, Vaishnavi to the fourth, and so on. So now let us see this eighth matrika, how she arrives. Then Shiv, surrounded by those Shaktis of the Devas, said to Chandika, "Let the Asuras be killed forthwith by you for my gratification." And thereupon, from the body of Devi, issued forth the Shakti of Chandika, most terrific, exceedingly fierce, and yelling like 100 jackals. And that invincible Shakti, this Devi, told Shiv, "Go, my lord, as ambassador to the presence of Shumba and Nishumba. Tell the two haughty Asuras, Shumba and Nishumba, and the other Asuras assembled there for battle. Tell them that let Indra obtain the three worlds and let the Devas enjoy the sacrificial shares. You go to the netherworld where you belong if you wish to live. But if through pride of strength you are anxious for battle, come on then, let my jackals be satiated with your flesh." And because that Devi appointed Shiv himself as ambassador thenceforth, she became renowned in this world as Shivduti. Dut means messenger. So she became known with this new name of Shivduti, and she is the eighth matrika. And this eighth matrika, Shivaduti, or also known as Chamunda as well, actually, they're both the same, helps us fight the demon of Pashunya, that is gossip. Now, it's an interesting thing that Chamunda or Shivduti is related to the eighth lunar day, which is Ashtami Tithi. And Ashtami is also related to Radha Ashtami, to Radha. And it is said that Radha is nothing but another form of Chamunda, actually. She is the sweeter form of Chamunda. While Chamunda is this fierce form that sort of just terrifies all devotees and the demons alike, Radha takes on the sweeter, more endearing and loving aspect. But they're both associated with the eighth lunar day, Ashtami. And Shiva's arrival here seems rather unexpected, doesn't it? But actually, it is quite symbolic, like everything else. To understand why Shiva suddenly appears in the battlefield and what he actually symbolizes, we must first get a basic, simple understanding of who are Shumba and Nishumba symbolizing. What are they standing for here? So Shumba represents the I, me, and Nishumba symbolizes mindness, mera. So Shumba is the ahamkar and Nishumba is the mamakar. Me or mera. This is Shumba and Nishumba. And now getting back to Shiv. So if the Devi is the Adi Shakti, Shiv is the Adi Yogi. He's the one who's explored and transcended all layers of consciousness to not just reach her, but also merge with her. The Lord of Meditation, Shiv, is the only one who truly understands her and is privy to her mysteries. Why? Because he has fully realized that he is her, and so she is him. And so it is him that the Devi chooses to send her message to the Lord of Asuras and his brother. And as the Adiyogi, Shiv here represents all the spiritual seekers, like the ones assembled here tonight, because he knows that Shumba and Nishumba, I and mine, मैं और मेरा, must surrender to the Devi. He knows that it is their final destiny. And it is only when Shumba and Nishumba surrender to her can the merging of the final merger of consciousness take place, which is what Shiv represents. And hence the reason why Shiv says that for my satisfaction, because Shiv cannot be satisfied until he is fully merged with her. His only satisfaction and any spiritual seeker's only satisfaction is disillusioning to her, surrendering to her, to go back from where we came from. And the last barrier on that path are Shumba and Nishumba, I and mine. And hence why Shiv says that let the asuras be killed by you for my gratification. Let us move on with the story. Those great asuras, on their part, hearing the message of the Devi communicated by Shiv, were filled with indignation and went where Katyayani stood. In the very beginning, the enraged foes of the Devas poured in front on the Devi showers of arrows and javelins and spears. And lightly, with huge arrows shot from her full-grown bow, she closed those arrows, spears, darts, and axes hurled by them. Then in front of Shumba stalked Kali, piercing the enemies to pieces with her spear and crushing them with her skull-topped staff. And Brahmani, wherever she moved, made the enemies bereft of valor and prowess by sprinkling on them the water from her Kamandolu. The very wrathful Maheshwari slew the Daityas with her trident, and Vaishnavi with her discus, and Kaumari with her javelin and plow. Torn to pieces by the thunderbolt which came down upon them, hurled by Indri, Daityas and Danavas fell on the earth in hundreds, streams of blood flowing out of them. Shattered by the boar-formed goddess Varahi with the blows of her snout, wounded in their chests by the point of her tusks, and torn by her discus, the asuras fell down. Narasimhi, filling all the quarters and the sky with her roars, roamed about in the battle, devouring other great asuras torn by her claws. Demoralized by the violent laughter of Shivaduti, the asuras fell down on the earth, and then she just devoured them who had fallen down. Seeing the enraged band of Matras, mothers, crushing the great asuras thus by various means, the troops of the enemies of Devas took to their heels. So now we can see that the 8 Matrikas, using their own various weapons and forces and styles of fighting, have made the armies of the 8 demons totally flat. We can see how the 8 Matrikas have rather, unique. Some of them have a very unique style of fighting as well. We heard about Brahmani just sprinkling water and causing those asuras to lose their vitality and their valor. Because this water is not just ordinary water, it is holy water, which is purifying the asuras of their asuric tendencies, and hence they lose their vitality because the source of their so called strength they've been relying on is the asuric tendency. And when she comes with her holy water, just sprinkling water, that strength is completely removed. And Shivaduti, she doesn't even have any weapon. Her laughter is violent enough to make the asuras fall down, and then she just simply devours them. So it's almost like a piece of cake for the eight matrikas to crush the great Asuric army that Shumba and Nishumba have sent. But the battle is not over yet. Things are about to change in a rather unexpected manner. Seeing the Asuras harassed by the band of Matras and fleeing, the great Asura, Raktabeej, strode forward to fight in wrath. Whenever from his body there fell to the ground even a drop of blood, at that moment rose up from the earth an Asura of his stature, like a clone. The great Asura fought with Indra's Shakti with the club in his hand. Then Indri also struck Raktabeej with her thunderbolt. Blood flowed quickly and profusely from him who was wounded by the thunderbolt. But from the blood rose up new and fresh combatants of his form and valor. As many drops of blood fell from his body, so many persons came into being with the same courage, with the same strength and same valor. And these persons, these clones, also sprung up from his blood, fought there with the Matrikas in a more dreadful manner, hurling very formidable weapons. And again, when Raktabeej's head is wounded by the fall of Indri's thunderbolt, his blood flowed, and therefrom were born new persons in thousands. Vaishnavi struck him with her discus in the battle. Indri beat the lord of Asuras with her club. And the world was pervaded by thousands of Raktabeejas who were of his stature and who rose up from the blood that flowed from him when struck by the discus of Vaishnavi. Kaumari struck the great Asura Raktabeej with her spear, Varahi with sword, and Maheshwari with her trident. And Raktabeej, the great Asura, also filled with wrath, struck every one of the Matrikas several times with his club. From the stream of blood which fell on the earth from him, when he received multiple wounds by the spears, darts, and other weapons, hundreds of asuras came into being. And those asuras that were born from the blood of Raktabeej pervaded the whole world. The Devas got intensely alarmed at this. Seeing the Devas dejected, Chandika laughed and said to Kali, "O Chamunda, open out your mouth wide, and with this mouth quickly take in the drops of blood generated by the blow of my weapon, and also the great asuras born out of the drops of blood of Raktabeej." roam about in the battlefield, devouring the great asuras that spring from him. And so shall this Daitya, with his blood emptied, perish. As you go on devouring these, other fierce asuras will then not be born. And having thus been joined by Kali, the Devi then smote Raktabeej with her dart. Then Kali drank Raktabeeja's blood with her mouth, and then and there he struck Chandika with his club. The blow of his club caused her not even the slightest pain. And from his stricken body, wherever blood flowed copiously, their Chamunda swallowed it with her mouth. The Chamunda devoured those great asuras also, who sprang up from the flow of blood in her mouth and drank Raktabeeja's blood as well. The Devi then attacked Raktabeej with her thunderbolt arrows, swords, spears, while Chamunda went on drinking his blood. Stricken with a multitude of weapons and bloodless, the great Asura Raktabeej fell on the ground. Thereupon the Devas attained great joy, and the band of Matrikas who sprang from them danced, being intoxicated with blood. Here ends the 8th chapter, called The Slaying of Raktabeej of Devi Mahatmya in Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni, the Manu. Wow, what a battle, right? The slaying of Raktabeej is actually one of the most important battles and significant battles that that takes place in the Devi Mahatmya. Raktabeej here can symbolize multiple things actually, and it is difficult and perhaps not right to actually point down Raktabeej to being only one thing. But because today we are fighting the Sattva Gun battles, which is the realm of thoughts, Raktabeej represents thoughts here, because the more you fight your mind, when you fight it too much, you actually end up reinforcing the mind. The thoughts just keep coming, just like Raktabeej's blood kept pouring into and turning into more and more Raktabeejas. So the thoughts just keep coming, and the more you try to stop them by attacking them and cutting them and slashing them, the more ferociously they actually pour out. You can't fight thoughts. You can only go beyond them and transcend them, which is what Chamunda does for us. And we'll come to the significance of Chamunda slaying Raktabeej, but let's just understand Raktabeej here. So there's no point in fighting thoughts, really. And essentially, isn't that what we all just keep doing? It's like fighting Raktabeej. There is no end to it. He will just get stronger and stronger the more we fight it. And so the more we focus on the things we don't like within us, we actually strengthen it. A lot of times on the path of self-improvement, we make ourselves, we turn ourselves into this long fix yourself project and just end up running in loops, always trying to purify ourselves, removing what is not right with us. And this process can be quite tiring and can be never ending actually. In fact, it starts to get out of hand because Energy goes where attention goes, and our attention makes that very thing stronger, which we actually want to get rid of. So we see how Raktabeej's replicative power symbolizes the actual working of the mind, the thoughts, whose every wave, every thought wave, every vritti gives rise to many others. This battle with the mothers reminds us of Patanjali's instruction to counter negative vrittis or negative thought waves with their opposite thought. Like counter a negative thought with a positive thought. Much to our dismay, just as a conscious attempt to think good thoughts often results in arousing our awareness of their actual opposite, because that is the nature of our dualistic mode of thinking. The same way, the mother's attacks only drew more blood and created more demons. So, trying to counter the so called negative thoughts with just by thinking good thoughts or positive thoughts, and there's a lot of, uh, you know, popular schools around this that think positive, but that doesn't really work. The mother's attacks or the attacks of the positive thoughts only made the demon stronger. So Patanjali actually advises people to counter negative thought waves with positive ones and then to relinquish identification with both. And this is where Chamunda comes in. Because she is neutral to the point that she doesn't care what it is, she's just going to take it all. And so she can actually relinquish identification with anything and everything. Chamunda is the power of concentrated awareness that leads to the awakening of spiritual consciousness. She is the Divine Mother who liberates us from the very vrittis, and stills us to bring union with the Divine. Another popular understanding of Raktabeej is actually desire, because that's how desires are, right? The more you try to fight them, the more they come out. And the more you go in the opposite direction, that the more you try to fulfill them, then more desires crop up. Haven't we all experienced this? If you think you haven't experienced this, remember the last time you opened Amazon or Flipkart for shopping, or you went to a mall. You thought you're going to buy just one shirt or just that one book. I just want to buy that one piece of earrings or that one small earphones. Then you step there and the Raktabeej of desires bursts out with ferocity, and then you want to buy this also, you want to buy that also, you want to buy that also. Raktabeej could well be the symbol of consumerism, actually. Raktabeej, the name itself means one whose seed is blood. What else does blood represent? When we think about our own blood, what's the first thing that comes to our mind? Blood relationships, our blood ties. So it is actually in our blood that the force of our ancestor flows, literally the seed of our blood. So Raktabeej here also represents the force of ancestors which runs through us in ways which is unconscious. how those repetitive thoughts and desires, unfulfilled wants of our ancestors also passes down into us, and which seems to be beyond our control. We try to fight it. We don't know where this desire is coming from or where this thinking pattern is coming from. We try to fight it thinking it is us, but it's not actually. And we just make it stronger. And we have so many ancestors. Even in just one lifetime, we have hundreds of ancestors. So you can't really sort of make your way through your ancestral lineage and try to understand where these forces within you are coming from. Why do you have these fears? Why do you have these desires? Why do you have these behavioral patterns? And I particularly want to emphasize the desire of your ancestors. The red color of the blood is the same color as the color of Mahalakshmi, who is the residing Devi of Rajasthan. So these desires, they just want to propagate themselves more and more, which is also what our ancestral forces want us to do. They want us to propagate. It's like a compulsive need they want us to sort of continue with. Another symbolism here of blood, and well, of course, it might not be related to Raktabeej, but you'll see why I'm mentioning it here. In Hinduism, menstrual blood of women is seen as a symbol of goddess Kali and her power to destroy and end things, just the way Chamunda did here with Raktabeej. She simply drank all the blood. And so, every menstrual cycle, a woman can consciously offer those things that she wants to be removed from her and offer it to the Devi to take away. Out of all the matrikas and all the forms of the Devi, it is actually only Kali who could have actually done the dirty job of slaying Raktabeej, of actually making it possible. Because her image of lapping up the copious flow of Raktabeej's blood illustrates graphically that desire is best dealt with before it gets out of hand. And hence we see here how Kali's typically feared destructive power now becomes a protective and beneficial force, actually. She is the darkness, she is the stillness, and in a certain way, she is that meditative observer inside of us. Her infinite vastness can absorb everything and keep us still. It is interesting the instructions that Ambika gives Chamunda, where she tells her that, you know, drink the blood of Raktabeej and the other asuras which are, arising from his blood. Roam about in the battlefield, devouring the great asuras that spring from him, and so shall this Daitya, with his blood emptied, his blood drained, he will then perish. So, this is another very vital reminder and clue for us as we fight with our thoughts. Devi is indicating here that you can't fight negativity with negativity. You can't drain it of its energy by, fighting it with attacks. You would drain it of its energy by remaining neutral to it, which is what Chamunda's strength is. And how do we remain neutral? By being an observer. And this is why practicing being a witness to our own selves, to our own lives, is so, so powerful. It is a game changer completely. For example, when a negative thought arises, in our reaction to it, we actually make it multiply, right? Like Raktabeej. But now imagine if you remain neutral to it, non attached, unreactive. What happens then? It simply scatters, like a smell in the wind, gone completely after a while. So, the lesson here for us is that if we don't react to a thought, it simply fades away. Similarly, if an angry person comes to us, if we don't react to their anger and simply stay neutral, then it completely changes the whole situation. Their own anger starts subsiding because we are not feeding the Raktabeej by more attacks. We are actually cleaning it up with our neutrality. Now, isn't that real power? Isn't that true freedom? I would like to end tonight's reading with a meditation. So let's take a quick 2 to 3 minutes break, not even 5 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes break. Let's get ourselves a little hydrated, just sort of stretch our bodies a little, make it a little more supple and get our cushions ready and get ourselves seated for tonight's meditation. Welcome back. I hope you're now comfortable. Not too comfortable. Hope your spine is as straight as is comfortably possible for you. Using the edge of the cushion to support your spine and keeping itself straight without straining the body. Gently close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. If you feel any built up energy or tension anywhere in the body, you can help release it by taking in your inhale through the nose and exhaling forcefully through the mouth. In fact, we can also try another strategy today to relax our mind, inspired by the gaping mouth of Ma Kali. Try inducing a yawn, like pretend that you're yawning, you know, and it'll actually give a signal to your mind that you're feeling sleepy and you want to relax. I mean, you don't yawn when you're stressed, right? So that's a little trick you can try tonight to help your mind get into a more relaxed state. Yawn wide and big like Ma Kali. And once you feel relaxed, simply start observing the breath going in and out. Watch how, on its own, of its own accord, beyond your control, the breath moves. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Sometimes deep, and sometimes shallow. Accept the rhythm of your breath just the way it is today and right now. maintaining this state of acceptance within you. Now slowly bring your awareness to the space between your eyebrows. And request Ma Saraswati to put a light on those parts of your mind which you're not able to accept. Just to put a light so that you can become aware of it. It could be a thought, an emotion, many emotions, many thoughts, a body sensation, some discomfort or pain in the body. Simply become aware. Take note. That this is here. There is nothing that you have to do about it. You simply have to take note of all these things, all these parts of your mind which you usually do not want to accept, which you tend to fight. It could be a desire, it could be a dream, it could be a fear, an insecurity, a habit, a behavior, a person, a memory, a relationship. It could be anything. And now you see in between your eyebrows a black colored vortex opening up. This is the gaping mouth of Chamunda. And she is here now to take away all those things that you had just taken note of. All those things that you've been trying to fight and get rid of, the things you've been trying to change, the things you feel defeated by. Simply stand by the side as her open mouth starts swallowing all of those things and taking them into her. You watch, silent, a mute spectator, as Chamunda's infinite mouth simply consumes everything. There is nothing for you to do. Watch how her magnificent and incredible power takes away everything without a moment's doubt. She doesn't even bother to check what it is. She simply takes it away. She's also taking away those things which you hadn't noticed. But she sees everything, all our blind spots. And she's now taking away all those blind spots as well. Let us now offer our gratitude to Ma Chamunda for the compassion that she is always willing to offer us. And as we do so, we watch that black colored vortex of energy slowly closing up in between our eyebrows, and then it disappears. That is all for tonight. I leave you now in this meditative space. Whenever you step out of this space, remember to drink some water, get some hydration. It is important. Good night and sleep sweet. Jai Ma.